Hello friends, welcome back to another episode of Rap Series. Today we are going to do a little bit of anatomy. We are going to talk about the thalamus and then the thalamic nuclei, and then look at some of the basic functions that are performed by these thalamic nuclei. The main aim is to understand the thalamic nuclei and then how they are arranged in the thalamus, and then the position of the thalamus in relation to other bodies. Now, when we talk about the thalamus is a structure that develops from the prosencephalon. Now we know that in the development of the brain, the neural tube develops into three primary structures: the prosencephalon, the mesencephalon, and then the rubencephalon. And then the prosencephalon develops into two other structures called the telencephalon and then the diencephalon. So out of the diencephalon, we have a number of structures. We have the thalamus, we have the hypothalamus, epithalamus, subthalamus as structures developing from the diencephalon. Now the thalamus is a structure that develops from the diencephalon, and it is a third order neural link in the somatosensory system that helps to relay fibers. Okay, it serves as a relay center. So fibers going down to the cortex must first go through the thalamus first. So relaying, except for the olfactory nerve, it does not go through the thalamus, it goes to the brain directly. So we are basically going to look at the thalamus and then the nuclei that make up the thalamus. Now, let's do a little bit of drawing so that we look at the relative position of structures with respect to the thalamus. Now let's take a rough drawing here. So this is the structure of, we have the pons, the medulla, we have the cerebellum, then we have the colliculi. Now this is the midbrain, and then on top of the midbrain we have the cavity of the third ventricle. Now, on the lateral side of each cavity, we have an ovoid structure. An ovoid structure. Now, this ovoid structure on the lateral sides of the third ventricle, so this cavity you see here, this cavity is the cavity of the third ventricle. Okay, that's the cavity of the third ventricle. Now, this structure we see here is called the thalamus. Is that okay? Now, just posterior to the roof of the third ventricle, we have a structure here. So this is the pineal gland, or the pineal body, as we may call it, the pineal body. And then on this side, you have the habenular nuclei that are connected by the habenular commissure. So we have the habenular nuclei connected by the habenular commissure. Now, on top, or at the roof, the superior roof of the third ventricle, there is also another structure which I want us to take notice of. It looks like this. So we have, now this structure is called the fornix, and then at the anterior ends we have the mammillary bodies, and then the posterior ends we have the hippocampus. So we have the hippocampus, then we have the mammillary bodies. There. So if I represent that structure here, we are going to have something like this. Good. You're going to have something like this. We know that anterior to the third ventricle, we have the hypothalamus here. So this is the mammillary bodies here. Is that okay? And then here we have the pituitary. Okay. So this is a rough structure of the thalamus and then its relations. So we have the thalamus here. Now, medial to it, we have the cavity of the third ventricle. So laterally, when we look at the lateral part of the thalamus, we have a structure going up like this, which we call the internal capsule, which is lateral to it. The internal capsule, which is lateral to it. So this is a rough diagram. Now that we know the relative positions, let's quickly look at the thalamus itself, and then we'll look at the various divisions of the thalamus. Good. So as we saw earlier, the thalamus is a very big structure, so ovoid in shape. Now, the thalamus is divided into sections by a V-shaped structure. Now, this V-shaped structure is what we call the internal medullary lamina. The internal medullary lamina. So just remember a Y-shaped structure. A Y-shaped structure that divides the thalamus into three main zones. Okay. Now, let's go through how we divide the thalamus into various nuclei. Now, so the three major areas we have the anterior group. So anterior group of nuclei, because there will be nuclei here. We are going to talk about that later on. And then we have the medial group. So we have the medial group. And then finally we have the lateral group. Now, these are the three basic regions. Now, each of these regions is divided into several groups again. So we are going to look at the groups into which the lateral group is divided into. And we are going to use a 3 for that. So you kindly remember. Now, we have anterior, medial group, and then we have a lateral group. Now, the lateral group is subdivided, and usually I use this easy way in recognizing the various groups. So just know that at the posterior part we have the pulvina. That okay? So P for pulvina. So we have the pulvina. Good. Now, then we have a dorsal tire. A dorsal tire of nuclei. That okay? So we have a dorsal tire. And the dorsal tire here is divided into two. That okay? And then we have a ventral tire. So we have a dorsal tire, which is here, and then we have an anterior tire of the lateral group, and then we have finally the ventral tire. So the ventral tire is divided into. So we have. Take note of these divisions very well. Now, good. So, what we are going to do now is, we said that the thalamus is divided into three basic regions, and then we are looking at the group, the lateral group. So, let me project this here so that we actually see what is occurring there. Good. So this is the lateral side. Now, so for the lateral side, we have a dorsal group. Is that okay? Then we have the pulvina. So pulvina. He said the dorsal group is divided into two. The dorsal group is divided into two, and then we have an anterior, so a ventral anterior group, and then we have a ventral lateral group, and then we have ventral posterior medial, and then ventral posterior lateral. Now the dorsal tire, we have the lateral dorsal, and then we have the lateral posterior. So just remember 1, 2, 3. So just remember 1, 2, 3. And then at the end you have the pulvinar. Isn't it easy? So 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3. So we have the ventral anterior group of the lateral. Remember we projected this portion here. We have the ventral anterior group. We have the dorsal tire, which is subdivided into the lateral dorsal and then the lateral posterior. Now we also have a ventral tire. We have a ventral anterior, ventral lateral, ventral posterior medial, and then ventral posterior lateral. And then finally we have the pulvinar. Now on the ventral surface of the pulvinar, we have structures here. This is the lateral geniculate body, and then this is the medial geniculate body. So this pretty much summarizes what we have for the thalamic nuclei. Now let me now draw a nice diagram of the thalamus so that we see. So good. Now so you can go through this with me. So we have the anterior group, we have the medial group. Now and then remember 1, 2, 3. 1 posterior, which is the pulvinar. I can take that away. So 1, 2, 3, let's go. So we have 1, and then we have a dorsal group which is divided into 2, and then we have a ventral tire, so we have the pulvinar here which is divided into 3. So we have the ventral anterior, the ventral lateral itself, and then we have the ventral posterior medial and ventral posterior lateral. And then we also have the lateral dorsal and then lateral posterior. So these are the various nuclei we have. Now let's look at the other nuclei. Let's now take a cut section. Remember we have 2 thalami. So now if I cut the thalamus like this, assuming I cut the thalamus like this, so we'll see an internal nuclei. So this nuclei above, so we've cut, so we are looking at a 3D section now. Now this one above is the intralaminar nucleus, and then we have the centromedian nucleus. And then remember we have 2 thalami. So if we have 2 thalami, so let's just assume we have another thalamus at this side. So they'll be linked by interthalamic adhesion. So this area that links the 2 thalami is what we call interthalamic adhesion. Okay, so there are also nuclei there. Now finally we also have another group of nuclei here. So now so this is what we call the reticular nuclei, and then the zone here is called, if we have an internal medullary lamina, then we have an external medullary lamina. So this is the external medullary lamina, and this is the reticular nuclei which surrounds it. So it's like a fence, something like that. Let's put it that way. Now let's go into a little bit of details on the various nuclei and then what they do. So we've looked generally at the arrangement of the nuclei. So we are basically going to look at the nuclei and then the various fibers that synapse in there, so that we can have a general idea of how the thalamus works or serves as a relay center. Is that okay? Good. So now let's take the anterior group first. So the anterior group has several portions. So let me just clean this structure here and then give space. So for the anterior group, we have subdivision of the anterior group. We have the anterior ventral nuclei in here. We have the anterior medial, and then we have the anterior lateral nucleus. So the ventral group has 3 nuclei: anterior ventral, anterior medial, and then anterior lateral. The largest group is the anterior ventral group. Is that okay? So what we are going to look at is that how does which fibers actually relay in the anterior group of nuclei. Now, remember when I was drawing the thalamus, I drew a structure which looked like a V. Is that okay? There are a structure like this. Pause. Here, it's called the phonics. There is a tract that actually runs through called the mammalo-thalamic tract. Now, the anterior group serves as a link between the hypothalamus and then the cingulate gyrus. Is that okay? So the afferent fibers of the anterior group nuclei, so they come from the mammillary bodies. The mammillary bodies are showed at the end. So in the mammillary bodies, we have mammillary nuclei. Is that okay? So inside the mammillary bodies, we have 2 mammillary nuclei. We have the lateral mammillary nuclei and then the medial mammillary nuclei. So the tract, the mammalo-thalamic tract that arises from the medial mammillary nuclei will come and then synapse in the anterior-ventral and then the anterior-medial nuclei of the anterior group of the thalamus. So the medial mammalo-thalamic tract, that okay, so arising from the medial mammalo-thalamic nuclei will synapse in here. We synapse in the anterior-ventral and then the anterior-medial nucleus before they eventually go to the cingulate gyrus. Is that okay? But this is ipsilateral. And then the lateral mammillary nucleus. So the lateral mammillary nucleus, fibers arising from the lateral mammillary nucleus will move through the mammalo-thalamic tract and then come and synapse in the bilateral, so for both thalami, bilateral anterolateral group of anterolateral nuclei before they move to the cingulate gyrus. Is that okay? So basically, mammalo-thalamic tracts from the mammillary bodies of the hypothalamus going to the cingulate gyrus will run through. Is that okay? Those from the medial nuclei will go through the anterior-ventral and the anterior-medial nuclei, and then those from the lateral will go through the bilateral anterolateral groups. Is that okay? Good. Now, what about the efferent fibers? So just like I was talking about, if you paid attention, you might have heard I mentioned the cingulate gyrus. So the efferent fibers from here, they go to the cingulate gyrus and also the parahypocampal gyrus and then some other parts. So that is it for the anterior group. Now, for the medial group is also subdivided into basically 2 groups. Now, the anterior group, before we go to the medial group, is responsible for functions such as A, M, A. So the function is for Alertness. Alertness is for memory, and then it's for attention. So fibers carrying this go through the anterior group. So anterior group is for AMA. Yeah, AMA is the name, right? Good. So A for alertness, M for memory, and then A for attention. Now let's go to the medial group. Now the medial group also has two parts. We have the magnocellular. So now let's go to the medial. So the medial group. Now for the medial group, we have the magnocellular, and then we have the parvocellular nuclei. So the parvocellular is lateral and then largest. The magnocellular is medial and then the smallest. Is that okay? So let's first take the magnocellular nuclei of the medial group. So the magnocellular nuclei of the medial group actually receives fibers coming from the amygdaloid complex, fibers coming from the temporal neocortex, and then so amygdaloid complex, So actually fibers that are coming from the temporal neocortex, and then the orbitofrontal or the orbitofrontal lobe. Those are the afferent fibers coming to the magnocellular, and then the efferent fibers will go to, okay, you can go to the hypothalamus. Is that okay? So you can go to actually the hypothalamus, and then the frontal preoptic area, and then the parvocellular. Parvocellular, generally fibers that are going to the frontal lobe. Fibers that are going to the frontal lobe will generally pass through the parvocellular nuclei. Now, the medial group is very important. So damage to the medial group of nuclei will lead to cases of depression. So if you have damage to your medial group, you experience depression, you have sensory obsession, you are very obsessed, aggressive. Yeah. So when you have damage to the medial group, those are some of the symptoms that will manifest, because they help in relaying those information. Now, let's come to the lateral group now. Is that okay? Let's come to the lateral group. Now, so for the lateral group, we have the ventral anterior. So just like we saw in the medial group, the ventral anterior also has, so now I'm going to use PC for PAC, so PC for parvocellular, and then MC for magnocellular. So the ventral anterior group also has a parvocellular and then a magnocellular. Is that okay? Now, if you've learned about the basal ganglia, then this will be even simpler, because we have the afferent, and I repeat, the afferent fibers that are coming to this particular area. That's the parvocellular, are actually from the internal globus pallidus. Is that okay? The globus pallidus, internal globus pallidus of the basal ganglia. Fibers, the afferent fibers come from there, and also the corticothalamic tract also synapse here. Is that okay? And then for the magnocellular, the afferent fibers are from the pars reticulata part reticulata of the substantia nigra. Is that okay? And then the efferent fibers from the ventral anterior nuclei, of course, could go to other intrathalamic nuclei or eventually go to the cortex. Is that okay? Good. So that is this for the ventral anterior group, and is responsible for recruiting response and motor activities. So now let's look at the lateral group. Okay. So the lateral group is also made up of, we have two nuclei. We have the ventral lateral oralis and then the ventral lateral caudalis. So O for oralis, C for caudalis. So for the oralis, fibers that are coming from there are also from the internal globus pallidus, ipsilateral, ipsilateral internal globus pallidus, that is of the basal ganglia. And then for the caudalis part of the ventral lateral, the fibers that are coming from there are the fibers that are coming from the contralateral deep cerebellar nuclei. Is that okay? So for the ventral lateral group, and then the efferent fiber for the oralis goes to the supplementary motor area, and then for the caudalis, the efferent fibers will go to the primary motor area. So let's quickly come to the ventral posteromedial. So the ventral posteromedial group is very simple. I'm not going to write anything on that. So generally fibers that are coming from the head, the intraoral part, and then the face. So you can think about the trigeminal nerve. They all come to before fibers are sent to the brain actually to interpret things. They come to the ventral posteromedial. And then for the ventral posterolateral, I think about the ascending sensory neurons from the various muscles. So we have the spinal thalamic tract, the medial lemniscus. They all come and then come to this part first. Is that okay? Now, the lateral dorsal group. The lateral dorsal group of nuclei also have afferent fibers that are coming from the pretectum and then the superior colliculus. So lateral dorsal, we have fibers that are coming from the pretectum and then the superior colliculus, and then they'll move to the parahypocampal gyrus, the cingulate gyrus, and then the lateral posterior group, reciprocal fibers between it and then the superior parietal lobe. That okay? And those areas. Okay. Now, then the pulvinar is basically responsible for integration of sensory information. So it integrates sensory information, and then the reticular nuclei is also responsible for modulation of all the nuclei. So it makes sure it modulates all the activities of the nuclei. And fibers that are usually passing here will help you, I think, to some extent, your memory. They play a role in memory. Good. And then we have the intralaminar nuclei that is located inside the intralaminar nuclei, basically for arousal, and then the centromedian for emotions and memory. Is that okay? So that is basically a summary of the thalamus. So we've looked at the thalamus, its relations, and then the divisions, and then the various nuclei, and then what they do. So I hope this video was very helpful. If there is anything, you just ask me in the comment side, and then I'll be happy to help you understand more. Thank you. This is basically the thalamus, the nuclei, and then what fibers, afferent and efferent fibers come to the various nuclei in the body. Thank you. Stay tuned for our next video.